Good afternoon and good Erev Yontiv to all of you in the Sheffield Community and beyond, whoever and wherever you may be. I'm going to be sending out this video which is going to have the order of the Seder, how to do your Seder yourself. This will be accompanied by two publications. Number one is from the Manchester Beth Din, which is it can be in good booklet form, you can print it off as you want. A number of these have gone out with the Seder kits already, and it contains a sort of a guide of how to do the Seder. I've also done my own, which is just Seder in a nutshell. In other words, one page with just straight, no frills instructions on what to do. This should enable anybody to be able to do a Seder, even if you've never done it before in your life. And right now I'm going to go through the order of events. And the first thing that we will do is, of course, sing the song of the order of the Seder night. Kadesh urchatz, karpas yachatz, magid rochzo, moitzi mahatzo, moroi v'koyne, Chadayeh, Safon Bereh, Aleh Nitzah. So now that we know the order, we'll begin, of course, with Kaddish. Ideally, Kaddish is one of the 4 cups of wine which you're supposed to drink this evening, so it should be done when it's dark. That is, you fill a cup of wine and you make Kiddush as in the Haggadah, and then when you get to the end, you lean to one side, to your left, and you drink the whole cup of wine. Everybody should do this, men, women, children. Everybody should have 4 cups of wine. You're supposed to sell your clothes if necessary in order to buy wine. Never had to do that, thank God, but the principle is the same. It's important to fulfill the mitzvah. The next stage is urchatz, which is to wash your hands. The reason we're washing is because we're about to dip, and before you dip something for reasons of ritual impurity, you're supposed to wash your hands. But you don't make a blessing on it because we're not about to have the equivalent of bread, which would be matzah. The third thing is karpas, and as you can see from my Seder plate here, I will take the potato and dip it in salt water. There's my potato, and I'm going to dip it in the salt water, and I will make a blessing, Borei Peri Hadama, Baruch Atah Melech HaOlam, Borei Peri Hadama, and eat it. It depends on your custom whether you lean or you don't when you have that. Fourthly, I'm going to break the middle matzah. As you can see, I have 3 matzahs here, so I'm going to break the middle one. And I'm going to examine my 2 pieces, and the bigger half I'm going to put aside as an afikomen. Going to wrap it up to make sure I don't make a mistake and it vanishes with everything else. So I'm going to put that to one side, and the half a piece of matzah I'm going to put in between the 2 whole ones, cover everything up, and return to the order of the Haggadah. So the yachatz is breaking the middle matzah. Then we get to magid, which is the longer piece. Now, not everybody is able to do everything and read the entire Haggadah. That's fine. Ideally, one should. But if you can't, then at least there are certain bits which are a main part of this. For instance, the halach ma'anya, which is the bread of affliction. We're supposed to say that in order to extend invitation, and it's also prayer in Aramaic, which is very special because it shows that the Almighty's Shekhinah, the Almighty's presence is there. Otherwise we could not pray in Aramaic. And we then continue with the Manishtana, and we of course have a tune to that. So of course, one of the most important parts of our Haggadah is that we have to ask the 4 questions. The Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mikol halelot שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים חמץ ומצה הלילה הזה כולו מצה הלילה הזה כולו מצה. And here's the last one. שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים בין יושבים ובין מסובים בין יושבים ובין מסובים הלילה הזה כולנו מסובים הלילה הזה כולנו מסובים. So the Manishtana is of course the 4 questions. Why is this night different from all other nights? I'm sure everybody will say, because we're stuck at home, that's why. Never been like this before. But we continue saying the Manishtana as it is in the Haggadah, because we are, if you like, evoking very, very holy things in heaven. When we say the Manishtana, even though it seems to be on the surface just simple questions, it is still spiritually very, very significant. So therefore, even somebody who's on their own and has no one to ask the questions to, should still say the Manishtana. After the 4 questions have been read, we then continue with the answer, which is a long piece that discusses lots of things about the Exodus. And I know it's long. You can read it in the English. It all depends on how much you're prepared to do. But there are certain basics which one should try and include in that Maggid, even if one doesn't want to say the whole thing. For instance, one should say the first paragraph, our forefathers were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, and the Almighty has taken us out, because that answers the question of Manishtana. Then there are other pieces that perhaps you can say if you don't. I mean, the story with Rabbi Loza, Rabbi Shur, Rabbi Loza ben Azar, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Tarfon that were sitting in Bnei Brak. Do you know why they were sitting in Bnei Brak? Because they were on lockdown. They couldn't go anywhere. And they spoke about Yetzias Mitzrayim throughout the night until the students came to them and said it's time to read the Shema. The reading of the Shema is something that you would notice because it starts getting light outside. How comes they didn't notice? Because they were so involved in the story of the Exodus that their room lit up, so they didn't see the outside light coming in. Then you have Rabbi Loza, who says he's like 70 years old, and he never worked out how we have a mitzvah to repeat the story or to talk about the Exodus at night as well as at day, until Ben Zoma explained to him. Ben Zoma is not Ben Zuma. We've done the Zoom. This is on Yom Tov when we're not supposed to do Zooms. But the significance of that is when he says he's like 70 years old, he was actually the soul of the prophet Samuel, who lived to be 52. Rabbi Loza ben Azai himself was only 18 years old, and he, if you like, brought with him the achievements, knowledge, understanding and sanctity that his previous life on earth as Samuel had achieved. So 52 plus 17 makes 70 years old, plus 18 makes 70 years old. So you see that a person brings with the achievements of past lifetimes. What about the sins? They don't come with. They get erased. They get wiped clean before we come to this world. Then we have the 4 sons, the Chacham, maybe 4 sons or maybe 4 different parts of our own lives. There are times when we are wise, there are times when we are rebellious, there are times when we are just a little bit simple, and at times we don't actually know the questions to ask, and so on. All of that can be said if you wish. If you find it too laborious, you should skip to V'hisha Amda, which is the point where we pick up the cup of wine and we hold it in our hands. By the way, you should always hold a cup of wine like this, because then you're holding the wine, whereas if you hold it like this, you're holding the cup. And we say V'hisha Omda while holding that cup, that this is what has stood by us, that the Eibishter always looks after us, and there have been many attempts, and don't we know it, to destroy the Jewish people, but somehow we've always managed to survive. That is the miracle of the Jewish people. When saying that, a lot of us have a tune that goes with. So this is V'hisha Omda, and when we say this, we take the cup of wine in our right hand, and we sing or say the following. V'hisha Omda, V'hisha Omda, Lavoseinu Velonu. V'hisha Omda, V'hisha Omda, Lavoseinu Velonu. Shelo Yechad Bilvad, Omad Aleinu L'chal Lo Yaseinu. Shelo Yechad Bilvad, Omad Aleinu L'chal Lo Yaseinu. Ela Shebechol Adai V'Hadai, Oim Bimaleinu L'chal Lo Yaseinu. Ela Shebechol Adai V'Hadai, Oim Bimaleinu L'chal Lo Yaseinu. V'Hakadosh Baruch Hu Matzileinu B'Yadam. Hakadosh Baruch Hu Matzileinu B'Yadam. The Almighty always saves us. Then the next thing you want to mention is the 10 plagues, and when we do so, we pour a little bit out, or some people dip with their finger, so as to show, if you like, that we are losing from our cup of blessing when others suffer. Those are the 10 plagues. Then we have some discussion as to how many plagues there were. Some say there are lots of other plagues which are not detailed in the actual book itself, but come to us through Midrashic teachings. And then we say how much we ought to thank the Almighty, and even if you'd only done one of a whole list of things, it would be enough for us to do a Seder and thank the Almighty. It would have been Dayenu. A very firm favourite. Elo Elo Hatziyanu Hatziyanu Mimitzayim Layasa Vahem Shefati Dayenu. Ilo Asavem Shefati Velayasa Velayhem Dayenu Dayenu Dayenu. Die Dayenu Die Dayenu Die Dayenu 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 Die Dayenu Die Dayenu Die Dayenu Dayenu Dayenu. Yelu Asavela Heyhem Blay Harakes Khayhem Dayenu Dayenu Dayenu. Ilu Harakes Khayhem Blay Nasalanu Westmamayna Dayenu Dayenu Dayenu. Die Dayenu Die Dayenu Die Dayenu 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 Die Dayenu Die Dayenu Die Dayenu Dayenu Dayenu. And I'm sure you can do the rest yourselves. Then another part which is important to mention excuse me, is the 3 important ingredients in today's Seder. The Pesach, which is the Paschal lamb, which we don't have anymore. The Matzah, which we do have, and the Maror, which we do have as well. All these 3 must be mentioned. And then we go on to say parts of Hallel. So Hallel is split, with part of it being said before the meal and the other part after the meal. And we have a few songs to go with on that. So this is the first 2 paragraphs of Hallel. The first one is to what I call the Seder Grunwork tune. Hallelujah, Adonai. Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Yehi Shem Adonai, Be'evorach, Me'ata Ve'Adonai, Mimizrach Shemesh Adonai, Be'hulah Shem Adonai, Amal Goyim Adonai, Al Hashamayim Kavod Adonai, Mikadonai Eloheinu, Hamagbilah Shabbos Hamashpili B'Rosh Bashamayim U'Ba'aretz, Mekibi Me'Yavodah, Me'Yashpa'es Yahdi Me'V'Yoy Lehoy Shivi Im Nedivei Haboy Vashivi Akeres Habadis Ema Bodi Semecha Hallelujah. Next paragraph of Hallel, Sheffield song. V'tzeis Yisrael mimitzayim, Beis Yaakov me'am lo yes. V'yasa Yehuda lekahat shoy, Yisrael mamshelo hisa. Hayom rava v'yavav Hayaden Yisrael le'yachoy Harim rakdu cheyelim Gevav mois kivenetzoy Malacha hayom kisanos Hayaden Yisrael le'yachoy Harim tilkedu cheyelim Gevav boys kivnei zoy Milifnei Adon chulei haaretz Milifnei Elei hayachoy Ha'evchi ha'zu ha'gam voyim Chalamish v'mayne voyim. Having sung the parts of Hallel, we then raise our cup again and we finish off with the Bracha Asher Ga'alanu and so on, which is the blessing, if you like, on the story of the Exodus. And it says, thank you, the Almighty, and we hope one day that the city of Jerusalem will be rebuilt and the temple will be rebuilt and we will be able to return back there in worship as we used to. And we finish our Baruch Atah Hashem Ga'al Yisrael. Then we lean to the left and we make the blessing on the cup of wine. Baruch Atah Hashem Ga'al, and we drink it leaning to the left. The next thing we do is we go and wash our hands, and this time we do make a blessing because we are going to eat the matzah, and so we do make the blessing, and then we come back and we make hamotzi as follows. We'll take the three matzahs, we say the first blessing, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam motzi lechem min haaretz, and then put down the bottom matzah, so I'm left with only the whole matzah and the part of the matzah which I broke earlier at Yachatz, and then I say the second blessing, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu v'tzivanu al achilat matzah, and then holding both of those matzahs, I'm going to consume them. That's the first part. The second part is to have a piece of maror. As you can see, I have some maror. What you use for maror is up to you, horseradish, and we use some lettuce, in which case, and then we dip it in the charoset, but not too much, because we want the charoset to not take away the bitter taste. And we don't lean for this one, because it isn't something to lean about. And we make the bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu v'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat maror, and we will consume that. So we've had the matzah separately, and we've had the maror separately. And now we're going to mix the two together and make what we call the Hillel sandwich. It was not the Hillel sandwich that created this, it was Hillel. and we take the matzah, the third matzah, which was at the bottom, and we put the maror together with it, and we say, so did Hillel do, Kain asa Hillel, and we go this little paragraph as in your Haggadah. I would give you page numbers for Haggadahs, but everybody's going to have a different Haggadah. And then we would lean to one side, and then we eat the matzah and the maror together. Having done that, we're now free to have our meal. The meal should start off with the egg, and the egg is dipped in salt water. At the end of the meal, I take the afikomen, which I put aside, and I'll eat this as the last thing before the meal. Some say you shouldn't eat or drink afterwards except for the cups of wine which follow. So if I'm thirsty or hungry, I'll eat that before I have my afikomen. And the last thing I do, which is called safon, I'm going to have my afikomen. When all that is finished, I clear the table off, I pour out my third cup of wine, and I'm ready to do the benching. And that is called Barech or Beirach, depending on your particular version. And then we finish off the rest of the Hallel that we did earlier on. We started earlier on, and we sing the songs that go with them. And now we're coming to the second half of Hallel, which is said over the fourth cup of wine. Adonai Zechron Yevorech, Vorech es beis Yisroel, Yevorech es beis Aharoim, Yevorech Yirei Adonai, Haktanim min Hadonim, Yeseit Vadroi Aleichem, Aleichem V'Yavnechem, Baruchim Atem Adonai. I say Shamayim Ba'aretz, Shamayim L'Adonai, Ba'aretz Nasan Lifnei Yadav, V'Hameisim Hallelujah, V'Loika Yadedu Ma, V'Anachnu Nevarech Ya, Me'ata V'Yavadoi La, La 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 la, hallelujah. And then the end of all the various prayers, which you're probably quite tired and it's quite late at night already, we finish off with the fourth cup of wine. We say the grace that follows, and we sing songs. Now some sing the song before the fourth cup of wine, some sing it after the fourth cup of wine. And the main thing is the Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem, and we have a few songs that go with that. And of course at the end of the Seder, we all say the Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, the Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, the Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, the Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, hallelujah. And of course some of the songs at the end of the Haggadah, we've got to join in. Adihu, Adihu, Yivne Beisai B'Korayim, B'Mheira, B'Mheira, V'Yameinu B'Korayim, El B'nei, El B'nei, B'nei B'Yisra B'Korayim. And of course we can't forget that famous Chad Gadya, the one goat. Not bad for Trey Zuzi. Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya, Zov bin Abba Bitrei Zuzi. Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya, V'yasa Shum Rava Achla Gadya, Zov bin Abba Bitrei Zuzi. Chad Gadya, Chad Gadya. Okay, and just a short message. As part of the Haggadah, you will notice, I didn't mention this earlier, that some people may feel okay about this, others will not, going to the door and opening the door to Elijah the prophet, who comes and visits us. I hope he's not in isolation, self or otherwise. And Elijah is a symbol of blessing and of hope for the future, and we need this hope for the future, because in spite of the fact that we are not having Pesach in the usual family way, it is still valuable, it is still significant, it is still important. Don't pass over Passover. It is very, very important that we fulfill our traditions and we don't let this sort of situation overwhelm us. I mentioned earlier that the prayer of Halach Ma'ani is said in Aramaic, because normally we need the angels to take our prayers up to heaven, and they only speak Hebrew, so our prayers are always in Hebrew. That's one of the reasons. Nevertheless, there are occasions when we have prayers in Aramaic. Why? Because the Almighty is right there in front of us. We don't need angels to take our prayers anywhere, because they don't need to travel. And one of those is Halach Ma'ani. Says we start the Seder, we need to know that the Shekhinah is right there, the divine presence is right there in front of us. In everybody's home, Elijah will be there, and the Shekhinah, and who knows, maybe Mashiach will be there as well. I wish you a happy and kosher Pesach.